Hey, hello everyone. So we're still going on with the Freelancers Summit 2023, and the talks have been amazing thus far. But this one is particularly super interesting, and this panel, I love this panel because we have Caleb here in Australia, we have Margaret is in the UK, we have Audrey, she's in Namibia, and I'm in Zimbabwe. So this is just a whole international thing going on, and it's helpful, particularly with our topic, which is building startups, strategies for success. And the reason why we had founders from different parts of the world was to try to get the conversation into talking about different experiences, and the goal is to get to discuss how we can increase our rates of success as African startups. So I'm going to start with introductions to our speakers. They will talk about themselves. Starting with Caleb.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome to be here. So excited. I love diving into basically setting up startups and business models. So this is great. My quick background. So I sit on both sides actually of being a founder and an investor. My last startup was a startup called Entry Level, which is an ed tech, taught people how to get into tech roles. With that, we took it from, 0 to hero, raised 2.5 million and grew the team to 20 before I left to do investing. And then now I run a small fund called Proximity Ventures. So we invest in early stage startups. So I think I kind of get what it's like building the thing, and then now I get what it's like assessing the thing to invest in. So I bring sort of both perspectives. And then briefly, I also run a media company now called Tech Safari that writes about some of the best startups on the continent.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction, Audrey.
Thank you, Tongai. So I'm Audrey Chanakira. I'm based in Namibia. So I founded the community called Zim Developers, not really a startup, but I believe, the lessons I've learned from, starting that community also has some aspects of, how startups can be formed and can survive. So I'm professionally a mobile app developer. I focus on iOS applications. And that's basically me.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, Margaret.
Hi, so I'm really excited to be here today. So I'm Margaret and I'm the founder of Ito. So Ito is an African food network times recipe box delivery company. We've been operating for just over a year now. Very exciting time for us. And apart from Ito, I'm also a fixed income consultant working in capital market space. Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess I'm going to just get in with our first question around, you have this idea, which I think, thinking about ideas, I have like so many domains that I've bought over the years, but the biggest thing now is how do you move from that idea stage to getting into actually creating a company, creating a startup, getting a team. And I think the most important thing is how do you figure out that this idea is worth something? So I'll pose that question to Caleb, since he has more experience, starting different companies over the years.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting one. When you have the idea, it's very easy to think like, this is amazing. I'm going to change the world. Like, let's go do this. Let's raise money. I think one of the things that you kind of want to optimize for, and one of the things that I think the best founders do is they run very small tests. So like a question that I like to ask when I have an idea is like, if I think this is good and I think this could be real, what's like the 20-minute version of this? So how can I test this idea in like 20 minutes? What's like the scrappiest way I can put this out there and get some feedback or see whether this is like, this can work or not? So I think that's one of the models I'd like to use. And with Tech Safari, it was like, okay, could a newsletter like this work? Let's just try launching one and see if anyone cares. And people did. And so it sort of grew from there. And with Entry Level, we made a landing page and we're like, okay, does anyone like the idea of, on-demand, education for tech jobs? And it went viral and we're like, okay, people do like this. We can start the company. So Yeah, that's how I like to think about it. How do you do the smallest test possible?
Got you. Yeah, I do like the mention about test, because, it's very easy when you like something to just go in without any information. But, if you have tests, if you have your data, if I've reached out to 100 people, 90 people say that they like this. If it's 2 people who say they like it, there's probably, a better idea. But, that's super helpful on that side. The next thing now, moving on, okay, I've identified, people like this. I guess this is my next question to Margaret. I know you're building Ito, an amazing startup. How did you move from, an idea to getting a team to start to build your MVP, test it out, get more users? How has that journey been for you?
So I think the key thing to do is to have a plan. And then in your plan, you're able to kind of identify, okay, this is how I'm going to structure the business. And then you also identify the resources you need for the business. So once I put the plan together, I knew kind of what, if I needed to hire people in, I knew what skills I had and what skills I didn't have as well. So when I was hiring the people, it was to fill in the roles that I didn't have the skills for us to really execute. And then, once you've kind of got the resources, funding, the human resources together, and then you have a plan, you have a vision, then it's bringing everyone together, sharing the vision of the company, sharing the culture, and also as it's a startup, communicating that, we are a startup. I know this is going to work, but it's not going to be an easy road. And once everyone buys in, I mean, from the most junior person to me being the most senior person, then it's kind of easy to get going. And I think in Ito's case, the beauty of us is that I am in London. So I'm between London and Accra, but my team are in Accra. A lot of the time I'm traveling to either go see investors or, I'm just trying to push the business forward. And it's nice to have that team back home that are still, keeping things going, still kind of driving the business as if they started it themselves and they're the founders. So yeah, for me, it's have the plan together, identify your structure, who you need, and then get the resources for you to kind of execute on that. And I think, sometimes founders try to do it themselves, and that's, to me, it just doesn't work, because, if you're trying to build a big company, impact, you need the right team, and team is everything. So I think the success of Ito has been the team I'm able to put together, and everyone's passionate about what we're doing and understands the vision of the company. Yeah, so
Got you. Yeah, I do like, because I always tell my team that the technology is not that hard. Unless you're building a spaceship or a rocket or something. But the technology, if you tell code that you want this website to be read, it's going to be read. But it's the people, for me, that's the hardest part. Figuring out who to work with, figuring out everyone has different agendas, which is fine, but figuring out whose agenda aligns with yours to build the idea that you have. Which brings me to the question. Audrey is a developer, so I want to ask you, as a developer, what do you recommend founders do when they're moving on to the stage of building their product?
All right. No, thank you so much, Tongai. Well, honestly, you mentioned something very interesting. Dealing with people is not always easy. And from my experience being a developer, most of the times I have to start on my own. I have to make sure that I understand the technologies. I have to make sure that I do my research to say, okay, let's say we want to build our product, a website, for example. I have to do the research. What kind of website do we need? And think ahead in terms of scaling up, because finding the right people is not that easy, to be honest. Especially from my experience, we are a community. We are not really a profit-making organization. So most of the time you'd find yourself that you have to work with people that are willing to be volunteering on the thing. So it's very hard. It's not easy. So you'd find yourself as a founder, you are doing most of the stuff because you have a certain standard that you need to maintain. So that's one of the core things. It's good to understand the technology, especially if you want to tap into the tech? People are speaking about AI these days. Do you understand yourself what AI means? Because you don't want to find yourself in a situation whereby you are misinformed and you are just all over the place, and then you are making, costly decisions. So it's a very tough position to be in. But if you have some technical background, it's to your advantage because you are well equipped in what you need to do, how to get started. You already have that framework, in your head, and then it's probably easier to choose the right people to work with because you know what you want to produce. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Got you. Understood. And I do like, the fact that you're talking about community, because I think earlier on, it's probably one of the biggest things that will help you as a startup. No one knows about you, but if you have a community around you that, is supporting what you're building, that goes a long way. They refer people to your product and things like that. Unfortunately or fortunately, Caleb, when you mentioned that you're also an investor, it opened the door for me to ask you, what should founders do and what's the process they should take from that idea to looking for funding? If it's if it's early stage, if it's pre-seed, what's the process you've seen from the point of view of being a founder and the point of view of also being an investor?
Yeah, good question. So I think the first question should always be, am I ready? Well, firstly, do I need funding? Am I ready for funding? So that question is, do I have something that is fundable, or do I have an idea that is solid enough, or enough traction or enough revenue, whatever your metric is? And that's different for the business that you're doing. But do I have something that here that's actually worth funding? That should always be the first question. And then it's also is your team ready to take that money? Are you ready to grow with that money? Because maybe you have the idea or the product, but your team isn't in place. You're not prepared to scale that team yet. And so that's another one. I think actually maybe most importantly is have you found product market fit or something that indicates that? I think that should be the first thing you have before you go ahead and raise money. Otherwise you're going to have a very hard time. And it's hard to know what it's hard to say what product market fit is, but you know it when you have it. It's like when your server costs are so high, because you have so many people trying to use your app, right? You put something out there and it's gone. You beta test something and it's just in such high demand. So that's one of the first things. And that's what founders or investors really look for in startups. The other one is, is VC funding even the right thing for you? I think that's a question a lot of people should ask. And for a lot of people, it isn't. I bootstrapped my media company, even though I didn't need to. And I could have grown it a lot faster. Right now I'm doing all organic growth, no paid. And it's such a slog, and all my peers are putting money behind ads, and I can't do that. But I wanted to own the whole thing, and I didn't see it as a venture backable business. So I think that's some of the thinking too. For startups that I do like to fund, I like to see something that looks like product market fit, a competent founder, or something that shows that they're competent, whether that's a track record or just what they've done in this startup or previously. And then I think the market is actually the most important. Are you solving something that really needs to be solved? As in, people will will value your product more than other stuff that they could be putting on the table. So.
Got you. Yeah, I think, what you mentioned about, figuring out, do I need funding? Am I going to bootstrap? Am I going to ask for my friends and family for, maybe 10K to get started? Is it organic growth? All of those questions, do matter. It's things that you need to ask yourself. And I guess my next question to Margaret is, how do you now figure out your business model, particularly how to make money? And I think profitability at an early stage is another conversation, but figuring out at least a business model to say, this is where we're going to get our money. This is how much we project to get this year, next year, and how can this become a venture scalable or fundable business? Yeah.
Okay, I will kind of talk to kind of what Ito's done. So we, for us, one of the first things we done is we kind of looked at the competitor landscape and looked at their business models to kind of see what has been working for them, what hasn't been working for them. And then the second approach we took, because I guess we have already put our food network out there, we listened to our customers. So we put out a lot of surveys, understanding what are the problems they find when shopping for African food, what do they want to see more of in the market, and then we kind of took that away, obviously without releasing too much, but we had a lot of sessions internally, strategy sessions, where we basically took in their feedback. It wasn't necessarily to, just deliver a product that they want now, but it's to say, okay, these are your problems, but is there a way that Ito could give you a product that is far better than what you even are asking for at this stage? And also looking at the, looking at the future, where do we see African food moving? What can we do? So I think combining all those three things for Ito, so, looking at our competitor landscape, then talking to our customers, having our strategy sessions, and then I guess 4 things, and then looking to the future, we were able to kind of put all that together, and then that's what kind of formulated the Ito business model. And we operate kind of a multi-revenue stream model, so we're not relying on one source. It's just that we phase things out so we can really focus on the customer and the experience we give them, rather than trying to do everything at once. But yeah, that's the approach Ito has kind of taken, and so far it's been a success, I would say. But yeah, there's a lot for us to still do and get out there. So it's really exciting time for the business. Yeah,
got you. I think the multi-revenue stream, is a great idea, so that you don't just depend on one thing, and then eventually figure out what's really working, and then you double down on that. So these are different strategies or processes that we also have taken at AfriBlocks. The next question to Audrey now is, the startup is here, the idea is here. Where do you get the users? How do you identify, like, this is my customer? Where is this customer? Who's willing to pay? Who's not willing to pay? All of those questions.
All right, thanks, Tongai. That's a very good question. So obviously, when you have a business, you want to start something up, you have to identify the problem that you're trying to solve. So that would include you also doing some research to say, okay, what is the problem and how are we going to solve it? Will people like it? And then you start from there. So in the context of my community, for example, Zim developers, what we identified was that, you see, we have social media, but we just didn't have that online presence of developers. They were all over the world, scattered, and there wasn't really any platform that brought people together to discuss about the projects that they are working on and all of that. So that was the problem that we're trying to solve ourselves. So we were like, okay, let's start on Twitter, for example, where most of our developers are, where they talk. Sometimes they post memes about technology, but let's start there. So you should just identify your entry point, your starting point, and then you try to weigh out to see, will it work or will it not? So surprisingly, we started by just creating our own page. We called Zim Developers, and the Twitter page grew without us we weren't even expecting that kind of growth, because everyone was now talking about it. Oh, have you seen Zim Developers? And what captured them, what made us unique, was that we were very active on the social media platform, trying to connect people. And people were very interested in that. We would have Twitter spaces where we would discuss with developers, business people, and have that platform where everyone meets. So when you identify that, you start to penetrate the market, and then you grow from there. So it's just identify a starting point, which problem you are trying to solve, and where are the people that you're trying to address, to say, okay, this is what we are offering. Are you interested? And then you start from there, and then you start working it out.
Got you. I think that's super important. Get started. You really need to get started and get the information and see what's working, see what's not working. I think we're close to the end, but I'm going to give you guys this time to talk about what you're working on and what people should expect, say, in the next 2 months. if you want to direct someone to register for something, sign up for something, you can go ahead. Starting with Caleb, I think maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, cool. So as I said, I am actively investing in startups across the continent. So if you're a founder, you have something interesting, you've got something that's looks like product market fit, then reach out. I'm really keen to meet. And I write a newsletter called Tech Safari. So I cover tech in Africa, just talk about the best stories or the most interesting stories on the continent. So hopefully we can include a link, but it's just techsafari.io is the website. Sign up. It's the best newsletter on African tech out there. So
perfect. Margaret.
Yeah, so at Ito, we're actually super excited because we're working on the second phase of our business, which is our recipe boxes. So we're making our most popular recipes shoppable, and we're bringing convenience to the market. We're starting off with London first, but there is hopes to also, switch on also in Accra close together. So you can really find out what we're doing on Instagram first. So if you go to Ito Network, and then you'll see the community there. And then also if you go to our website, www.itonetwork.com, and then please do feel free to drop me an email, if you're a founder and you want advice, or if you just want to learn more about Ito, then you can reach me on info@msito.com, and I check my emails daily, like literally 20 hours a day. But yeah.
Thank you. And Margaret is one of our customers, one of our amazing, supportive, since probably like 2 years ago. And, I just thought I should mention that. I'm sorry. I appreciate you. Audrey, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you. So us as a community, we are planning to host probably one of the biggest Southern African tech events sometime next year. I've been to Nairobi in February, and there was Africa Tech Summit, and I loved the idea. There were people collaborate, businesses, where venture capitalists that come. So we are planning to create that same platform, for our community in Zimbabwe, where other African countries can also come. And, we network, because that's all about it. We just network, and then we collaborate in many ways we can. So we plan to do it in Bluello, not Harare. So we're trying to also expand in the Zimbabwean ecosystem and not just focus in the capital city. So yeah, you do check us on our website for more info, or on our Twitter handles. So it's @ZimDevelopers or zimdevelopers.org, where you can find more information.
Got you. And just to add, we do have the hackathon in collaboration with Zim Developers going on tomorrow. It's an AI and Web3 hackathon. So do check out that one as well. But thank you guys. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming in to talk to our audience, talk to our founders and entrepreneurs. I know, we're all in different places, and, just taking our time to talk to other founders is super amazing and super helpful. Thanks a lot. And please do leave comments, do leave questions. Talk soon.
Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
for having us. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.